I think we're on.
Wonderful technology. So this is Hadlock South, not to be confused with the esoterical Hadlock North. It's the home of William Pickering. Now, I'll just give you the short version of it. So William Pickering, if you look at him around here, he was best basically known as the father of satellite communications. He grew up in Havelock, was very interested in the radio. In the 1920s, was basically working for the Calicut Institute of Technology, so very prestigious, high-ranking technology. His peers were included Ernest Rutherford. What I always think is really interesting is you look at California Institute of Technology. He joins the faculty at 1936. And then you look at jet propulsion, end of the war, 1904. Bill joins the Calicut Institute of Technology Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Now, I don't know much about math, but I'm pretty sure 37 to 43 are missing some significant years. So what happened there? Oh, that's right, World War II. William Pickering, aside from being the father of the satellite communications, he was also one of the chief people to understand the ability to weaponize the propagation. That's, in other words, weaponizing radio signals. And so in New Zealand during World War II, one of the things they discovered when they let off the nuclear bomb was it actually had an impact on the Earth's electromagnetic field. They had a huge conference, basically invited everybody but the Nazis to participate, really understood its military implications. New Zealand was actually put in charge of studying the ionosphere because we already had 3 ionospheric laboratories, again because of people like William Pickering. And so we began basically the first process of taking us from the atomic age. So if you imagine we know Ernest Rutherford split the atom, that's the atomic age, to now we're meddling around with electrons with the idea of realizing that they have an energy and weapon potential as well. So that is the very, very early period of New Zealand scientists being involved in the war effort and producing these huge scientists of weapons of mass destruction. You also, aside from Pickering, you had people like Thomas Leach, who was the father of not just the tsunami bomb, which was a big bomb that literally caused a tsunami wave that was researched here in New Zealand, but he went on to be the head of the Snowy Mountain hydro process, which was also actually a cover for the Australian nuclear. It was very short-lived, but they had the Australians had their own nuclear weapons program until the Americans in Australia and the British said, don't worry, we'll sort you out, and they packed it up. But at that time, Leach, who had been Australian but been the professor of engineering at Auckland University, took over basically running Snow Hydro, who was also one of the key people involved in geoengineering. So when you look at Snow Hydro and geoengineering today, you'll find these planes going around doing this cloud seeding, spraying silver iodine, which is what all the mainstream papers refer to it. Silver iodine is actually barium phosphate, so that's actually is a chemtrail. So again, not a theory anyway. Come this way. I'll just quickly bring you over here. I don't actually fully understand this, but this is actually Pickering's coat of arms, which I'm just really putting on record because I want to break it down, because it's got something interesting in the Greek Orthodox and the Murray combination, and these little guys are actually from the Ravens, which other heraldry is from Christchurch is relevance, but that's another story, just more for my own sake than anything. Another to bring over here. And so this is the other course of the great sort of scientist that was a big part of the whole World War II war effort was Ernest Rutherford, the man that actually split the atom. He worked along with Marsden and other New Zealand scientists on the Manhattan Project, which was basically the plan to create a nuclear weapon, which, as I said, once they detonated it, they started to realise that it actually also had an impact on the electromagnetic frequency as well. So effectively from the 1940s up until the 1980s, a lot of the actual research and atmospheric studies was actually pioneered here in both Australia and New Zealand. So in New Zealand, you look at a lot of these declassified documents. I'll show you the sort of the hot sites, areas which had unique propagation abilities. One of them is in Kaikoura, where later on the UFO incident would take place. Another one's down in Hines, which is exactly where Starlink has actually got their download stations. And another one was down at Aurora Plains, which today is basically kind of going to become the next not Birdling's Flat, Mahia Peninsula. If Birdling Flats doesn't go here, big rocket space. Its connections to the military efforts go back as far as 1910 with the US Navy. And this is just basically Rutherford's story. And then again, you get into the whole geological, history of New Zealand, which is only really relevant again because during this election, one of the things which no one's actually talking about is the concept of Zealandia. 2008, we made this huge, massive expansion on the economic exclusion zone around New Zealand, really massively, all the way down to Antarctica, all the way almost up to Tonga, both ways out towards both continents. Interesting enough, in 2017, when they discovered a new continent, it matched perfectly where the new exclusion economic zone is, which is super rich in basically minerals, really good for propagation technology, satellite technology, all things that we're talking about, really good for cell phones, really good for making spaceships, really good for making weapons and arms, but also clean green. And New Zealand has one of the highest concentrations per cubic meters in our Zealandia continent. We should be talking about that, saying, well, what's going to be the future of these resources? How are they going to be mined? How is it going to benefit the average person? We're not having any of those discussions instead, because we're being distracted by other issues which have been fed to us offshore and not actually talking about our own issues in this particular election. Leave you there for the great Ben&JAH-SUN's election tour, and we'll show you some more sites along the way. Ta-da!